Now you're looking for trouble.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of American Werewolves, where we talk all things horror. I am your co-host, Brandon.
I am Jerry.
And today we're going to change it up from the reviews. We're going to go over a film that is being developed over at Blumhouse and Atomic Monster, Dead by Daylight, the film adaptation of the video game of the same name. It was released in 2016. It is a survival horror game where you can play as one of four survivors in a group and go up against the killer and try to escape the map, or you can play as a killer and, solo it and try to mop everyone before they get out of the map. It is an extremely fun game. It's kind of been an obsession with me, Jerry, and other friends. We've been playing it nonstop for a while now. Super fun, especially if you're a horror fan. The cool thing about those games is that it has a variety of killers, most that you can see right here in the background, and most that are from famous horror films. So you get to play as Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger. I believe Leatherface, there's a skin for him there. Ghostface, Chucky, any horror villain you can think of, they are most likely in this game. And it was announced back in, I believe, March of 2023 that James Wan and Jason Blum were going to get together and do a film adaptation of the video game. Now, they've been known to develop. They've been kind of like starting to do small adaptations here and there. They did one last year with Five Nights at Freddy's, which is also based on a survival horror game. And I mean, Jerry, how do you feel about that one?
Man, I remember us sitting in the hotel room while we were kind of just waiting for us to head to the park for Horror Nights.
Yeah.
And watching this movie. 20 minutes into the film, I remember looking at you and being like, this shit is so bad.
It was not good. I'm not a fan of that movie at all.
We have a whole other review on it. If you haven't listened to that, go ahead and do it.
My dog is being crazy right now.
But Dexter's never crazy. Dexter is an angel. What they did with that film makes me nervous for this one.
Yes, full on. Now, I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt because, that movie Five Nights at Freddy's, regardless of reviews and what people think of it and stuff like that. Dexter, relax. I know. I'm petting this dog quick. He just wants attention. But yeah, with that film, it was such a success. It made a bunch of money in the box office. Actually, I want to look it up quick because I remember it was a ridiculous amount of money that it made. And Blumhouse was very happy with it, despite the overwhelmingly negative reviews. Yeah, it was on a budget of $20 million and it made $297 million. So they definitely want to keep that franchise going. They definitely want to keep the video game adaptation trend going over there. And while, I just hope that they can take what they learned from Five Nights at Freddy's and apply it over to Dead by Daylight. Because, an issue I had with Five Nights is it was just strictly fan service and it didn't really do anything to introduce newcomers or in I feel like a very cohesive way. In my opinion, a lot of people will take that completely different. But yeah, I'm not a fan of those. I'm not a fan of those games. So I was just more curious to see what this world was like, and I'm not really tempted to go visit it again. I hope this Dead by Daylight film can find that balance where it can appease a lot of the fans of the property while also bringing in newcomers. Because, that's the whole point of these adaptations, right? We just had Fallout recently, and because that show is such a success and a bunch of people who weren't familiar with those games like fall in love with that world. Now we have a bunch of people playing those games. Like, mission accomplished. That's how it's supposed to be. You want people to go back. You want people to like fall into your franchise. So I really, I'm really nervous about this Dead by Daylight adaptation, but I'm also really excited because I love this game and I feel like this, the lore behind it is something really cool, and I feel like a lot of audiences would really enjoy it, especially horror fans in general.
Yeah. So I agree. I think Dead by Daylight, from what I've heard, or not Dead by Daylight, I'm sorry. From what I've heard from Five Nights at Freddy's fans, is that the movie did a very good job at just being fan service.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this in our review, however many episodes ago. My issue with that is when you are turning a video game into a film. Yes, you want to do right by your fans, but it's no longer just for the fans. You are now releasing it into the world, and it is a multimedia property at that point, and you need to find ways to bring other people who aren't gamers or who don't understand certain things into that universe that you have now built. You need to make it understandable and enjoyable, not for your fans, yes, because you want to do right by them, but for other people who aren't fans, and you can turn them into fans. And that was my problem with Five Nights at Freddy's. I did enjoy those games, in high school. I don't remember the lore as well as I did then. But as a film in and of itself, it was just not good at all.
Yeah.
And
the writing is very messy for that one. It's very I don't know how to describe it. It's just very all over the place.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, it kind of draws you in the beginning a little bit, and then it starts going off the rails, and not in a good way, but like the halfway point. I think when they started building forts in the pizzeria, that's when I was like, what the hell is happening in this movie?
I think you're giving it a lot more credit. At 15 minutes into the film, I was like, this is not fucking good.
Yeah. It was slowly losing pace, but I think it was that point where I was like, okay, yeah, no, they're not going anywhere that I'm interested.
Yeah. To not turn this into a Five Nights at Freddy's recap, I am worried that this is going to happen because, like Five Nights at Freddy's, Dead by Daylight does have a lore. Like something similar that the two games have in common is that you don't need to understand the lore to enjoy the games.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I don't really know much of the lore of Dead by Daylight, but I have fun being dropped into a map and trying to survive. I know a bit about the lore because I had watched a video on it a while back. But it's whatever I had seen in that video is like just like wisps in my brain at this point. Like I don't really remember much.
Yeah, I get that though. I know a good amount of the lore for Dead by Daylight, and I will say this, compared to Five Nights at Freddy's, going back to that, the lore for Dead by Daylight lends itself to work well with a movie adaptation, I feel. Mm-hmm. The lore in Five Nights is just kind of convoluted with all those games spread out and stuff like that, whereas Dead by Daylight is consistently building on just one idea, which I think is really cool. So basically the lore of Dead by Daylight is that there is this being known as the Entity, which is grabbing these various serial killers and survivors and bringing it into its world, loosely based on the killers where they're from. So like Freddy Krueger, he's in the game, and there is a map of Elm Street where you can escape from. And the whole thing about the Entity is that, like, even if you leave and or if you take down like the survivors, if you win, you don't really win. You're just going to be repeating the cycle over and over again. And it's something that these characters have to figure out how to break the cycle of. That's essentially the lore. It sounds a little weird, but also really cool. And I think it's something that could work really well in a film if done right.
I know in the lore, only one person has ever managed to actually escape.
Yeah, I forgot their name,
Do you think
but
that's what the film is going to be about?
it's I don't know if it'll be actually, you know what? There's a good chance that could actually be it. That it's I just see it as like it could take the generic survivors from the video game, the Meg Thomas, the Dwight Fairfield. They have to have those characters in there. I feel like they'll be stuck there trying to escape this realm, and they'll probably be able to find a way to reach out to this one person that managed to escape, and maybe we can start learning more about that backstory and how, if there's any hope for them to get out of this like horrifying cycle.
See, I figured it would just be about that one person who escaped and how they did it.
Uh,
There are two ways that I think this film can go.
okay.
One is a very serious horror film where we do follow that one person, and we see how they escaped, how they made it out, and that in itself could just be the movie, a very serious horror film, because we have enough lore behind it to kind of make that.
Yeah.
Another way that the film could go is not following that and kind of just watching a live action version of the game itself. If that is the case, I would prefer the film be a bit more horror comedy, because there's not much to the game. It's you fix 5 generators and you get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And then you wait for the next round. Like that's the plot. And that's what I mentioned earlier. You can enjoy the game without understanding any of the lore
Yeah. No.
because it's a simple game.
Yeah. The lore is essentially just nice seasoning to add on top of it.
Yeah, it adds to
the gameplay.
the element of the game, but you could not know a fucking thing about it and still enjoy playing the game.
Yeah.
I didn't learn about the lore until maybe like 4 or 5 months into us playing it.
Yeah.
But if they are going to go the route of just, hey, let's just make this game feel like a match that you would be playing, I hope it's a bit more horror comedy, because it's I just feel like the characters that are in there and the killers that can be in there, like you could have fucking Nicolas Cage and Chucky in the same room, and that's
Yes.
just wild.
Yeah.
And I think that's something they can have a lot of fun with.
Yeah.
And
For those that don't know, Nicolas Cage is in this game as himself, which is just insane, but in the best way possible. He was my favorite character to play as for a while.
Yeah, you can have characters from different IPs, and a killer from an entirely like different IP
Yeah.
in one map together. And that's just like, I feel like there is so much just comedic opportunity within that, that
Right.
can make the film fun, because I don't see and it's James Wan. James Wan is great. He can make it work. But I don't see them taking these killers and survivors from other things and having it be super serious, you know? Like, I don't see, and that's to say that they utilize those. They could not. They could stick to just the main core original survivors.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't see them really going full on to like the franchise serial killers anytime soon with this first film. I honestly believe they're gonna focus on the base game killers and the base game survivors, and maybe by the last half we'll have like a flood of different cameos popping in. Like I can see Ghostface coming in by the end because he's the easiest one to get around. The Ghostface in the Dead by Daylight game has nothing to do with the Scream films. It's just another guy in a Ghostface costume. He has his own story, his own background. So I can, if they can talk to the guy that just owns the rights for the Ghostface mask and costume, they can easily bring him in. Michael Myers is another possibility. He is part of Blumhouse's horror lineup. Like, that is Universal's now for the time being, I guess. But they can just bring that version of Michael Myers into their world. And yeah, just like a lot of different ones. But I honestly believe we're just going to mainly get the Huntress with her annoying humming. We're going to get the Trapper. I could see the Death Slinger being in there with his annoying little like piercing gun. And that robot, the Singularity. I could see those type of killers being in there. Hell, even the Hag, just the Hag would be just an awesome visual on the screen. As for the tone of the film, I feel like I don't want it to be a full-on horror comedy. Maybe something in the likes of like the It movies with Andy Muschietti. Like if he was behind this film directing it, I could see him like finding that great balance of horror and comedy in there. And yeah, honestly, Andy Muschietti would be my dream director for this film if they were, if they were to get him on there. Mm-hmm. But I can see that tone. I can see a tone like that where it's horror, but it has like, a lot of light moments in there. It's just a horror film that just wants you to have fun with it. And it's got this awesome lore that can be a nice backdrop for the story.
Yeah, I think it's just hard for me to imagine a super serious horror film with such a simple concept.
No, I mean, no, even the game itself is like the game itself kind of has like this fun tone to it. I mean, it's not even serious itself. If they made it like deadly serious, like it was The First Omen or The Exorcist or something, that vibe would be completely off. Completely, it just wouldn't work. So yeah, it needs to be a fun horror movie, just a fun horror movie in general.
Yeah.
Now, is there a particular killer you would love to see in this film adaptation pop up?
I think Ghostface would be really fun. I think out of all the killers that we play against, I think Ghostface is my favorite killer to go up against.
Yeah.
Typically because whenever we play against Ghostface, it's usually somebody really cool playing as Ghostface who likes to have fun within the match.
Yeah.
So that would be fun. I honestly think if they do wind up taking a killer from an IP, I think it would just be cool to see any of them, really.
Of course.
Within that setting. Except for... to me, Wesker just seems very out of place in that game.
Wesker, yeah, he's so out of place in that lineup. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, he's crazy to go up against, but he's not really scary.
Like, Nemesis makes sense.
Yeah.
But
I would have thought they would have grabbed Mr. X at least over Wesker.
Yeah, Wesker's just... It's strange.
Yeah. Is there a killer that's not in these games that you would actually like to see pop up? Mm-hmm. Like, even if, they're not a Universal property or anything, like, who would you get? Sorry, dude.
I would like to see in Dead by Daylight, if you do this update, I want royalties. I would like to see maps based around Universal monsters.
Ooh.
And then the killers be Universal monsters, like the generators inside of Dracula's castle.
That would be really cool.
Or
man.
Generators in like a swamp map, and then the killer is the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, that would be sick, honestly. Like if they can, yeah, like at least one of them would be cool. I would freak out to see it, honestly. That's actually a really good idea. I didn't even think about it. With Universal Blumhouse being together, that is something that is possible. That'd be really fun.
I think that'd be
I was
dope.
just gonna say, something like, I don't know, Pennywise. that,
That would be cool as shit too.
yeah, Pennywise would be really cool to see it pop up. Even if it's Warner Brothers, but never say never to those things. A lot can happen with these movies.
I think Warner Brothers is usually pretty strict within their IP contracts, because
Yeah.
I know we've never gotten like an house at Horror Nights, because during Halloween there is a, I think it may be in Vegas, but they do their own like Pennywise house. Like they do their own It house, and I don't think Warner Brothers, they Universal could have simply just never tried to get the rights for
Could be.
It for Horror Nights, though I doubt it with how popular that is. But yeah,
Yeah, no, I really I heard the same thing where they are kind of strict with what they could get away with when it comes to like licensing issues and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm also reading this quote right here from one of the executive producers, Ryan Turek, who said, he was commenting on the Five Nights at Freddy film and commented that the film would be informed by lessons learned from Five Nights at Freddy's and to prioritize making this a video game adaptation for the fans. That can mean anything, but it makes me think they're going to really dive deep into that lore for this story.
if they dive heavily into the lore, I can see it being more on the serious side.
I don't even think it'd be that serious. I mean, of course it'll be serious, but I feel like they'll still find that, even horror comedies, they got like that serious moment in the film where they have to explain something. So I don't think it's going to take away from the fun side of it. I still generally see it being like a very fun film. But there's not much to go off. This was only announced really March 2023, and this comment was of January this year. There hasn't been much update on this film. Is that also something to kind of be worried about?
Maybe, yeah, because there's that we know of that's been announced. There's no director. There's no cast. Yeah, there's no
nothing.
Plot.
And Five Nights took a while to get off on the ground too, so I could see them. They just really wanted to take their time to figure out how to make it work, and especially with the lessons they learned with previous films and stuff, they really want to take their time to make it work.
Did they though? Did they learn lessons? Because like, as bad as Five Nights was, like you said, it made money.
It made a lot of money.
It could very well be like, hey, this was.
I think they're aware enough where they're convinced, where like they can probably think like, that was maybe lightning in a bottle. I don't think if they even do a sequel for that, they're gonna expect the same results if they keep doing the same thing. They're gonna have to change it up a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. But I'm just curious what's gonna happen with this film, when we're gonna get more information. I don't see it. Honestly, I don't see this movie being made and released up until like maybe 2025, maybe 2026, maybe 2 years out from now. Just with like the lack of news and stuff. But we'll see. There's not much we can go on it. There's just a lot of stuff that I really, want to see. I want to see a lot of the characters like Dwight and Meg Thomas, and hell, even Bill from Left 4 Dead. He's part of the base game for Dead by Daylight, so they could probably make him work still. Yeah. And even Nicolas Cage, I would like to see him at least even for like a cameo at the end, or like, he could be a post-credit scene where they hint at him appearing in the next one. What was I gonna say? And I just really want them to like go into the lore, make the movie feel like a match in those games and really just do something cool with it. I feel like there's just so much potential with this property that they can do. I mean, we already got a spin-off game coming out, which is basically like a Dead by Daylight movie called The Casting of Frank Stone, which is from the developers of the Until Dawn video game and the Core video game. And that one I feel like could be, that's coming out later this year. I feel like that could be a nice hint towards what a Dead by Daylight movie could look like.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see, further and further. Maybe they're trying to wait for that game to come out before they start doing any more work on this film. We never know.
When is that supposed to come out?
Let's see. The game is set to be released and sometime in 2024. There's no confirmed release date.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but
I hope that there is a scene where they're all sitting around the campfire and Meg Thomas goes, "Guys, if we don't find a way out of here, we're going to be dead by daylight."
The best line in the movie right there. They need something like that. No, I want a scene where they are trying to fix a Jenny and they keep hearing the huntresses singing, her humming, and they're just turn and they go, "Will this woman ever stop?" Like, will she please stop humming? Does she know any other songs? Like anything else? Oh man, if you play the game, you like anyone who played the games knows that like that tune is like will forever be stuck in your head, and not in the best way sometimes. But yeah, that's about it for me, man. I really want to see. I really want more news to come out for this. I really want to see what they can do with it. I want to know who's going to be writing it, directing it. My dream director is definitely going to be Andy Muschietti. I don't know if you had anyone in mind that you feel like could do it, but I feel like he would. Yeah, honestly, I feel like he'd nail it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't really have anything else to add. TLDR of it is, if they go kind of the prequel route about somebody who did wind up that one person who did wind up escaping, I think it could be a very interesting film. If they go kind of not that route and kind of just go as if the game is just like a match, and here's what I was thinking, like they kind of take, I don't want to say take liberties like they do with Five Nights at Freddy's, because the guy who wrote the film was the developer of the game. So I don't want to say he took liberties, but from what I remember, the plot of the movie was not really the plot of the games. Like
it was like a mishmash.
Yeah,
of the plot.
Like the little sister and the cop, like that wasn't really anything in the games at all, that I remember. And I'm worried that they're going to try and create a story that isn't actually there with this game, and that I think that's where my concern is in terms of them not going the lore route of the person who escaped, because that's a very interesting story to tell, rather than them just creating a random plot that takes place after that and kind of just like in the middle of this random match. And that's why I feel like a horror comedy may work better in that sense, because you don't need to take the film as seriously.
And like it's already written right there. If you go on the Dead by Daylight website, you can go over the stuff with the characters, their lore, their backstory. Everything about it is right there. It's ready to go. Just follow that and you can have a good film. Don't, try to make it work. I know there's going to be some hiccups here and there when it comes to adapting a story from a video game to film. It's always going to be different. Like they're completely different mediums. So certain things work better in games than they do in a film. But like I said, the lore and the backstory, it all presents itself working perfectly for a horror film.
You know what else is actually I just thought of?
Hmm.
That is going to be interesting to see how they work around is that there's no risk, really. Because when you die as a survivor, the whole thing is you just get sent back to the campsite
Yeah.
and then you just wait for the next trial that you're called for. If you die in a match, you just get sent back. So I wonder how the film is going to create that sense of like risk and that fear, because if Dwight is killed in the movie, does Dwight go back to the campsite and just wait for the next scene of the film? Like, you know?
1 second. I don't think. I think the stakes is that they're just stuck in a loop. I think that's the stake itself. It's like Happy Death Day, where like she just kept repeating the same day over and over again. That was her stakes. How the fuck do I get out of this loop?
I guess that's true.
That's I feel like going to be the same thing, because like they escape, they don't escape, they end up at the same place either way. That's gonna suck for both the survivors and the killers that are trapped and victims of this entity that is just messing with them and forcing them to play this game.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I feel like it's just mainly them going to be trying to figure out a way out of that cycle, and that the person who managed to escape it will be the key into helping them out and possibly ending the nightmare. But who knows? They're going to try to, if this film is a success, then they're just going to try to franchise it out and make multiple films. And, you know, the story may never end. They may be stuck in a loop forever. Yeah. But that's going to do it for my thoughts on. Yeah, that's going to do it for my thoughts on Dead by Daylight. I'm looking forward to this. I really want to do more videos on this film, on this game. I really enjoy it as a horror fan. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a 10 out of 10 for anyone who hasn't seen it or played it. Yeah, if you're a horror fan and you got a PlayStation or an Xbox, what are you doing? Pop this on. Like you definitely should have this on your roster. It's a lot of fun, especially with friends.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I think that's about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's gonna be it for this episode of American Werewolves. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you thought of this episode. Tell us what else you would like us to talk about. If you want us to do another Dead by Daylight video, let us know down below. Once again, I am Brandon.
Hi, I'm Jerry.
Stay spooky.